So today we're going to talk about how to actually scale to 100K per month with the tutoring business. And to get there, there is one thing that is most important, and it's the same thing that I've actually talked about with my own sales team in the beginning, no, not in the beginning, but at the end of 2025, going into 2026. I had 2 closes at the time, and there was one key word and thing you need to get to the next level, and we're already implementing that in our business as well. Now, since then, I fired one of those 2, but, is what it is. But still, it's still the biggest determination of if you're actually going to get to your goals or not. Now, most of you actually have already went through your scaling session, right? And the roadmap of how to get to your goals. Most of you wanted to basically double the business. Would you say that that was useful?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. All we did is just look at the tracking sheet numbers and was just like, okay, what's out of KPI? Like a really, really simple, bare bones thing that anyone can do at any time. Now, why was it helpful anyway if you could have done it at any time? Do you know? No? Okay, fair enough. What about you, Kian? Why do you think something so simple can still get such great results?
Is it because sometimes you don't think about the finer details and need someone to...
Yeah, fair enough. But you were probably aware of what your show rate is, what your close rate is, what your cost per lead is, right?
Yeah, I was, yeah.
So why was that not addressed?
Maybe I'm working on the wrong part of the business.
I wouldn't really say that. There's something that's not aligned correctly, or something that's not happening, or something that you're not doing, or you're not in a certain state to address all of those things and actually move forward. Now, I'm sure all of you would agree that the more time and dedication and energy that you put towards your business, or literally anything in life, the better it's going to be, the faster it will grow, and the better the outcomes, right? Right. So now, why are you not analyzing something very, very basic, like just looking at the numbers on your tracking sheet and just seeing what's wrong, what we need to work on, and just doing the plan yourself? Because I didn't do anything that special on that scaling session, right? So why is that not being done? What do you guys think is the one thing that actually gets you to 100K per month and gets you to do all of these things, very simple things that you should be doing that you're not doing right now? What if you had to think about it, what would that be? Yeah, go ahead.
Just replacing yourself from all the fulfillment, every other aspect of the business that requires your attention. If you take your attention to the things that you just described, put your time into that and not worry about all the other things, then you could probably...
Okay.
So yeah, just getting people and delegating.
So hiring? Hiring, okay. We can do hiring. What do you guys think it is? I need some more suggestions, come on.
Systematizing.
Systematizing? Okay. So systems. Kian?
Doubling down on marketing, I guess.
So better marketing? Okay. Okay. Kyra, what do you think it is?
I think I agree with Sajid in terms of maybe hiring someone that's been in that position. They know what kind of buttons to push to get to that stage. But
Okay.
I also feel there's an element of risk that you just need to push through that, essentially, just take that risk, essentially, to go there. But essentially what Kian said, just doubling down on what you're doing.
Yeah.
I also feel like it's just your price points. If you could just charge a lot more per sales call, then that's not impossible to get to. So long-term, high price ticket.
Yeah, yeah. Now, all of those are true, but there's something underlying that actually allows all of these to be true in the first place. Okay? Now, I want you guys to really understand this. Everything that we talk about here and all of the micro metrics and all of the KPIs, everything you can improve, that's all strategies and what to do and tactics, right? But there's something on a macro scale that's actually keeping you from doing that and keeping you from giving your business the 100% attention and energy and time that you could be giving it. Now, because I'm sure, I don't mean to attack you in any way, this is also true for me, but you're not trying your actual hardest, I would assume. There are some days where you should be doing things, but you're not doing them. And you know that that you could be doing more and you could be doing it better. Would that be fair to say? Right. And that's the same for me. I'm not even saying that I'm any better than this. Kind of, but the word I'm looking for isn't necessarily mindset. So, belief? Yeah, kind of belief. But I feel like there's something that's way stronger than that.
Can you give us a hint?
Yeah, I'll reveal it right now. It's fine. Yeah, you don't need to guess anymore. Yeah. So. Standards. Now, the reason why I think standards are way more influential and way more powerful than like motivation, or what was the word you said, Kian? Mindset, and all of that. Because if you think about standards, if I give you food that is below your standard, would you eat it? Assuming you're not starving. Would you? Why not? Why would you not eat food that is below your standard? Would it be fair to assume that you would feel disgusted by it? Is that a strong emotion, disgust? Now, if I gave you a setter that's below your standard, and you have some sort of standard for a setter that, he does all of the dials within X time frame, he calls the new leads within X time frame, he says XYZ, he follows the script to whatever amount of detail you want. If I give you a setter that is below your standard, would you accept that person? Would you have him in your company?
Well, we shouldn't. We shouldn't.
You should. And if your standard is here and the setter is here, you won't. Because like I said, you will basically feel disgusted by him. Because your standard is above his current level, right? Same thing with food. You're literally disgusted to anything that is below your standard. Like same thing with relationships, same thing with friendships, same thing with everything. If something is below your level, you're repulsed by it. So if your standards are high enough, you will not tolerate anything that is below it. So the only problem that you have is that your standards are too low. Right? Now, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, Kazi, but I do have a very good example that I have to use, okay? And it's regarding the setter. Now, we've been talking about the setter for about at least 1 or 2 months, right? You need to fire him. You need to get a better person. Why do you think that hasn't happened? Why do you think you're still with that setter?
I accept it.
Because you accept it. Because you're not repulsed by what he's doing and how he works. You're not repulsed enough. Now the question becomes, okay, like, how do you raise your standards, right? Because like, okay, we now understand that standards, if set high enough, that's basically the minimum bar. And if the minimum bar is high enough, then you will achieve more, right? So how do we increase standards? Now, I've thought about this, and it's actually pretty simple, but not that simple actually. But you just have to increase them. Like that's really it. That sounds stupid and very simple, but you have to increase them, and then you have to actually stick to it, right? Now that's the hard part. Now it's easy to say like my standards are this, but if you accept anything lower, then your standard is not here, but it's here, right? So the hard part is actually staying at that level. So how do we actually stay at that level? You need your own reasons. I can't tell you why you need to raise your standards, because I don't know. I don't know what you care about. I don't know what you like. I mean, for some of you, I do kind of, but I don't know to the level that you know. So the only way for you guys to raise your standards is to think about why. Why would you want to raise your standards in the first place? There's also like limiting beliefs around standards, right? You're not believing it's possible. But ultimately, if you have a strong enough why, you're just going to get over the limiting belief. You just need to get over yourself. So if I were to ask you, Kazi, for example, why do you want to grow your business? Why would you want to raise your standards to that level where you do actually achieve 25K per month?
Well, for me, it's about giving my family the life that I think they deserve and being able to provide for them.
Right. So you want to give your family the life they deserve, and you want to provide to them ultimately. Now, is that reason strong enough for you to raise your standard in the example of firing the setter and getting somebody who is at your standard? Is that a strong enough reason for you?
Should be.
Well, should be is not an answer. It's a yes or no.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And you just have to keep that in mind. You have to keep reminding yourself of why, right? Because when you're tired and when you're not at 100%, you all have those days when you're at 100%, you wake up, you had your coffee if you do that, you've done your ritual, whatever you do, and you feel amazing, right? It's not that hard to work in those scenarios. But there's also days when you don't feel like that and you kind of feel like lazy and you don't want to do the work, right? And then you need those reasons to actually keep those standards up here. Kian, for you, why do you want to grow the business? Why is it so important for you to grow your standards to the point where you're not accepting 12 or 15K per month?
Well, similar to Cardi, to be fair. Just because, my family have given me a lot in my life, and I want to find a way to give back to them. That's really my why.
Yeah.
That's my why, to just make sure that like the people around me are always looked after and taken care of.
Yeah. And that's really all it is. Because most of the time, the funny thing is, you and myself included, before you buy a program, like 99% of the time, you know what you should be doing, and then you buy the program and they kind of reaffirm it, and then you actually do it. Because you pay the fucker like 10K, and then it's like, okay, now I have to try, because I paid him 10K, and I don't want to lose the money, so for fuck's sake, all right, let's do it then, right? But you knew what you should be doing, you just weren't doing it, because you didn't have the accountability of spending 10K on something, and then that person probably like holds you accountable to a certain extent so that you do more and that you do better, right? But you could have just done that when, first time you thought about doing it and you knew you should have done it. That's what I'm trying to get at. You just need to keep these reasons top of mind when you're dealing with all of these things. Anything that's below your standard should repulse you, it should just be disgusting in every single way, basically. To smell, to see, to hear. Because for you, having a standard that's below your standard means that you will not be able to provide for your family in the way you want. Right? Similar reason for you as well. I'm sure, Sajib, if I ask you, it'd probably be something around, what would your reason be?
Yeah, I would say it's very similar. It's about doing something meaningful, being able to be something I'm quite proud of, that builds myself, and proving that. And I want to be able to not worry about my family's future, our future, financially as well.
Yeah. You need to understand that all business issues are just personal issues. Because for you, probably talking to the seller, firing him is an uncomfortable situation, right? It's very uncomfortable. You don't want to fire somebody because he has bills to pay. He has stuff to take care of. It's not great. It feels kind of bad. It feels bad in the gut. But at the same time, you want to provide for your family, which you probably care about more than this random setter who isn't doing a good job anyway, who probably lied to you about what he's going to do and then didn't do it. So you really just have to get kind of angry and repulsed by everything and be like, no, fuck this. I'm just not going to accept this anymore. And then as soon as you do that and you keep doing it, that is when you get to 100K a month. And that is when, you do the marketing, you do the fulfillment, you do the outreach, you do anything that it takes, and you do it to a high enough standard. All those things that you guys said earlier, you do all of that and none of it is a problem. Now, you all also have limited time in the day, right? So eventually we will get into also hiring. Because to get into 100K a month, you can't just raise your standards to the point where you don't sleep, because that's just not going to work. You can't just say that your standard is no longer. I just won't sleep. I'm just going to work every day, all day, because my family needs me. So fuck sleep. It's probably not going to work out. So we do need to get into hiring. Now, hiring ties so beautifully into standards you wouldn't even believe. Because if somebody works for you, what does that tell you about that person? Do you guys have any suggestions? If somebody works for you, what does that tell you about that person and your relationship with them?
I think they respect your standards. I'd probably say, like, if someone works for you, and they believe in what's your product, your program, they must have some level of respect of what you're doing, and they match the standards that you set for yourself.
Yeah.
Well, they just want some money.
Well, yeah, they want money, but they could go work for someone else, to be fair. Now, I'm not talking about bad hires. Let's just generally exclude those because those are not a great example. I mean, like, at the very least, like decent hires, like someone that's at least decent. Not like someone totally shit, because that person doesn't even know what they're doing. So I can't even tell you what their relationship with you is. But someone that's at least half decent, right? It does come back to standards once again. Because they basically just need to view you in some way, shape, or form, at least in the context of your business, as better than them. Because otherwise they would just go start their own thing. And you have to let that sit. You have to be at least in the context of that specific business situation, better than them. And they need to, what?
Can you repeat that?
You need to be, at least in the context of that specific situation of your business, you need to be better than them. Because if not, they would just start their own thing and do it themselves. They just need to view you, at least in that, not as like in general, but at least in that situation as above them, and your standards need to reflect that. And if your standards do not reflect that, and you are not, at least in that specific context, better, then they will leave. Because they can't just go start their own thing and fuck off. And that's what happens, and then they do that, and then you don't have any employees anymore. Yeah. Do you have any questions around that?
How would you, because I've never actually fired someone before.
Okay.
It is obviously an uncomfortable situation. Like,
Yeah.
I think in my mind, like, I think I would do it if it came down to it. But, like, how would you go about doing it in, like, a professional manner?
Well, can you give me some more context? Like, what would be the reason? And
Just say, like the status, like, below par, like, below your standards.
I just shoot him a text message, to be honest.
Just a message, just saying you're fired.
Bro, I don't care. Because why are you firing them in this situation?
I don't know, because maybe, like,
Well, you need a good reason, because without good reason, you wouldn't fire them in the first place. So what's the good
you
reason?
feel like I'm babysitting them.
That's not really good reason, though. You wouldn't fire someone because you feel like you're babysitting them. You need something, or at least you need to expand on that.
I'm making sure that, well,
They're not doing their job. It's
yeah, as in they're inconsistent, very inconsistent.
Okay. So are you consistently paying them?
Yes.
And they're not consistently doing the work?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I have to
Okay.
get it back.
And in this hypothetical situation, have you brought this up to them?
Yes,
And has it gotten better?
for a period.
And then it's gotten worse?
It dips.
That's fuck them. It all comes back to, why do you do it? Why do you want to get to, you said 25K per month, right? Or was it 50?
Yeah.
Why?
Why not?
Why do you want to get there?
Why do I not get there? Because not to, like, it's,
Well, earlier you said family, right? Okay, and is that more important than keeping that guy?
yeah, yeah.
Shoot him a text message. Now, in the context of a setter, I would first remove their accesses, just to be sure. And then I would shoot the text message. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, the thing is, like, you got to have some kind of benchmarks that they have to reach, so they can see for sure, like,
Yes.
that feeling. I've looked at the data, and you've not reached those benchmarks each month of, like, I don't know, it might be about how many leads you actually called within that time frame. You actually booked in, the percentage that you're getting here.
Yeah.
Below a certain threshold, and there's your kind of, I'm talking to Keon mainly here, that there's your evidence right there. You're not just going off a feeling here. You're just saying, look,
Yeah.
the metrics are showing me here that you're just not performing at the level that's like required for this role.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? And if they disagree, that's a different conversation. But if they agree with it, then it just makes it easier for you to then say, well, it's not going to work out.
Yeah, obviously you don't want it to be based off emotion. That's why I asked, like, what's the reason? Do you have a good enough reason for it? Yeah, like before firing, ideally you want to double check numbers. You want to double check, like, okay, did I actually remind him? Like, okay, I saw that he's not calling the leads as he should. When was the first time I reminded him? What was the response? And what did he actually do? What was the second time? Okay, did I ask him why his behavior didn't change? Did he tell me? Okay, did we address it? Yes. Did that change his behavior? If still no, then it's like, okay, well, there's only so much we can do, right? But you don't want it to be just based off a feeling, where it's like, I feel like he should be, doing a better job setting. Have you brought it up with him? Like once. What did you say? Just try harder. It's not ideal, right? Obviously, you need to be professional. You just need to go through the numbers. You need to have data to back all that stuff up. But assuming you have all of that, which to be fair is not that hard to get. You just have to look at the numbers, because you're probably going to get emotional when you figure out that he's not performing to the level he should be. You just have to stop yourself. Okay, now let's just go look at all the data we have. And if it checks out, then, just let him go. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Cool. Does anybody else have any questions on this? All clear? Cool. Now, the reason why standards and hiring are super important when getting to 100K a month, and really like even above that, I'm going to tell you a story about one of our best clients, Patrick. Now, the reason why he was able to get such amazing results is because he got A-star performer on his team, who just outworked him and probably everyone else on Patrick's team. And that person had a massive influence. Obviously, I don't know all the details about Patrick's business, but I do know that that person was an absolute killer. I mean killer as in he did the job he was employed to do, went to sleep, and then went to the gym. And then sometimes he ate. Okay, and that was it. And that was it. Okay? And that type of person can double or triple or 10x your company. And we've seen that happen with our own eyes. And you guys are also testament to that yourself, because you kind of hired yourself to do the work, right? Now, in the beginning, to get to that 10, 20, 30K a month, it is all about standards, and it is just how hard can I push myself? After that, you start hiring, and it's, can I now enforce these standards onto other people? Now, the prerequisite to enforcing these standards to other people is that you have that yourself. You know, if you slack off, if you don't do the work, it's going to be difficult to, get someone to do the work if you don't do it yourself. It's going to be inauthentic and people can smell it. It's difficult to explain, but they will know. So that's not going to work. But all of you, from what I know, are hardworking and do hold yourself to that standard. And to get to the next level, all you need to do, at least most of you, is hold your employees to that standard as well, so that now there's a team getting there. Does that make sense? Now, the question becomes when to hire and who. Now, there's going to be a few key hires that you need to get to 100K a month. It's going to be the appointment setter, the closer. That can be the same person as well. So just keep that in mind. It can just be a full stack salesperson. There's going to be some sort of fulfillment manager that overlooks all of that. And then you might need somebody to do the ads, but that's also might. You'll definitely need a video editor. And then obviously you guys need tutors, right? I didn't mention that. That's very important. You don't want to be just doing the tutoring yourself, right? You need tutors. You need someone in charge of the tutors. You need a sales team, so setter and closer. Ideally, you would also want someone that manages your ads. You need a video editor. And then you're eventually also going to need like a creative director for like organic and the ads as well. Now, which one of those to hire first is going to be very difficult to say. Depends on your specific situation. I would say in terms of the sales team, I would definitely get a setter first, because you're just not going to be able to attract a good enough closer if you're not doing 100K a month already. You might be able to attract a decent one at 50. You might obviously get lucky, but we don't want to count on that, because when you're looking for a closer, you have to understand these people want to make 10 to 20K themselves. And you essentially have to convince them that at 10% commission, they're going to be able to do that within like 6 months. And if your business is doing 20K, that's going to be a bit difficult. Because 10% of 20K is 2K. So it's like they can start at 2K, that's fine. But like, are you going to get to 100, 200K a month from 20 to 100 or 200 in 6 months? You might. You're probably not, and he knows that. So that's going to be a bit difficult. Setters, they're a bit easier to find. And it's also not that difficult to do. Like setting in general is pretty simple. You just need a framework and a script, and they can literally just read the script on the calls. So that's very, very simple. So the first hire would definitely be a setter, because it doesn't really matter what your business looks like. I would imagine you're not available 24/7, right? So that's a problem. So you need a setter who's going to be able to call the leads within time. And usually those people work on like a 5% commission. You can also get some sort of base. So that I would definitely look at getting a setter. At 50K a month, I would start considering a closer, because at that point, the business can genuinely double within 3 months, and he can make 10K a month, and that's fine. So once you reach like 50, you could push for it. At 30K a month, might be a bit difficult, but you can push for it. You can get a closer in, but you have to be very selective with your closer. You have to understand that the industry of closers is an industry of liars, because they're salespeople. So they've been trained to sell you. So you have to keep that in mind. And they all lie, like all of them. So you have to be very, very careful when picking a good closer to get someone that is driven. And if you get someone that is driven and actually does all the work like they should, and you hold them to a good standard and they hold themselves to a good standard, you can get to 100K a month. Media buyer, I wouldn't worry about it just yet.
What's the media buyer?
Bro, you don't know what a media buyer is? Someone that does ads. Yeah. I wouldn't worry about it just yet. Because the problem becomes with these like high ROI hires, which a closer is, but the good thing with the closer is that it's on commission. So there's no risk to you. If you can convince the fucker to come work for you when you're at 20K a month, let's go, right? There's no risk. You're not paying him anything. It's just 10%. So it doesn't matter. But when it comes to high ROI hires and very, very high skill ceiling hires like media buying, those guys generally don't work on commission. So that's going to cost a lot. And you essentially have a choice to make when you're hiring these top of the line guys for like top of the line roles. Because like it's really just media buying, the creatives and the sales. That's 80% of your business, right? Like you could probably figure out fulfillment if I gave you 50 students. It might take you a month, it might take you 2, but you'd figure it out. And you would sell those 50 students. So really 80% of your business is just media buying, the creative side of it, and sales. So outsourcing that, there's pretty much 2 ways to go from 30 to 100. And you either bite the bullet and you do that shit yourself and you just don't sleep that much, or you pretty much just give away all of your profit and you hopefully it works out. I would prefer the first one, personally, because you're also gonna learn a lot more. So when you're thinking about media buying, I would not outsource that, at least at like 100 or even 200K a month, because that's one of the highest ROI activities and skills that you can have. It's really just like the highest ROI is sales and then media buying / advertising. I would say more so advertising because it encompasses creatives as well. Advertising is top of the food chain. Like marketing, that is the skill, right? So you want to be very careful when you're outsourcing these type of things. Because if someone can, you need to think about what you're doing here, right? If someone can truly do the marketing to get your company from 20 to 50K or 20 to 100 to 20 to 200K a month, why wouldn't they just do that themselves and pocket the 200K? If they can truly do it, right? Like sure, you could argue that they don't know the sales side of it, they don't know the fulfillment side of it. But if someone truly knows advertising, they need to know sales. And if someone truly knows advertising and sales, they can sell the skill of advertising and sales. So that's why it's so hard. And you probably don't, but we get a lot of prospects that bring up like, and it's always funny when they do this, that bring up, oh, I hired a marketer. I pay him like 500. He's from India, 500 a month. It's like, yeah, he calls himself a marketer. And then they expect that person to get them from 20 to 100K a month. It's like, if he had this skill to get you from 20 to 100K a month, he wouldn't charge 500 for it, like first of all. Because that person has a money printer type skill. And you have to deeply understand that. So I would stay away from hiring someone to do your ads and do your creatives for now, at least like in-house, I mean, right? You can do like fractionalized hiring, which is like an agency and stuff like that. That's better. But like in-house, I would definitely say no. If you expect them to do full-time, like if you expect them that your business is gonna be their main thing, and you think they're good enough to get you to 200K a month, you have to keep in mind that person expects 30K per month salary. You know, or maybe not 30K, but at least 15. So you're either gonna give away all your profit or you do it yourself. And I would very, very strongly recommend to do it yourself and get there yourself. The next thing is gonna be like tutors. Most of you, to be fair, you solve that pretty easily, right? Getting the tutors, doing the fulfillment, right? So it's just about handling the front end. I would first recommend a setter. Stay away from a closer until 30 to 50K a month when you have the leverage and you can pull in that better level of talent. And then stay away from media buyers until you're like a decently sized company, so like $1 million annually at least. Does anybody have any questions?
What about the like a creative
director? You can hire a creative director. I would say like 50 to 100 as well. They can be part-time, so you potentially do it sooner. I mean, we kind of skipped video editor. You should get a video editor as soon as you can afford one. So like as soon as possible, because it's like you don't really need to learn the skill of video editing. It's not gonna serve you in the future anymore. So it's kind of like you learn it now so that you use it for 6 months and then you never use it again, which is not ideal. So just as soon as possible, just get someone on Fiverr. It's really, really simple. Creative director is someone that needs to know a bit about copywriting, script writing, content. Obviously, you yourself are going to oversee everything. So I would recommend getting out of 50 to 100K a month as well. But you also have to think about like, why are you hiring this person? And the first thing you need to do is fill out your calendar 100% yourself. And you should only think about hiring once your calendar is 100% full. Because if your calendar isn't full and you're not, working 100% on a business, and there is stuff you could be doing that you're not doing, you're kind of just, buying laziness for yourself. You're just buying yourself the comfort of not having to do the work because you pay someone 1K a month to do it, and you just don't have to do it. So I would 100% just fill your calendar. And then I would recommend going from the lowest and easiest hires up. Because if you go the other way and you go from the hardest and the highest ROI hires and you go down, then what you do is you onboard a media buyer, you pay him 20K a month, and then you do the editing. So like at that point, he might as well own the business and you're just a video editor, So you want to definitely go from the bottom up. You want to think about what are the tasks that I'm doing that require no brain effort, or ideally copy paste and anyone can do it. And ideally, if it can be automated with AI, you do it with AI. If not, then you get a person to do it. And you always want to go bottom up. Because if you go the other way, you're just not going to be able to afford it. Or you're going to employ someone that doesn't know what they're doing, and then you're fucked. Then you're really fucked. Anybody got any last questions? Cool. That's pretty much it.
I had a question about the closer. You said like 100K will be a good closer because they're going to be expecting 20K a month.
10K would be the first goal, yeah.
What if they're not a great closer, but like with any role, people can get better, right?
Yeah.
Like for myself, from my first ever sales school to my sales school now, I'm like a completely different skill level, right? So that's me with no background in sales. If there's already a kind of a closer who's maybe not as experienced, not as kind of high expectation on salary, they can still be trained to get to that level eventually.
Yeah.
Specifically on your offer, specifically with your audience. So isn't it possible to bring in a closer that maybe doesn't have such a high demanding pay, but might not be as beginning to start with, but then you could train them to get to a level that's really good?
Yeah, you can. I mean, I said like the lowest barrier to entry would be like doing at least like 30K a month. Like you can technically get a closer at 20, 25K. You're kind of pushing it. Anything below 20K is just like the type of person that would go on that offer is not the type of person you want. And there might be 1 in a million that you get lucky with, but it's just not going to happen. Yes, you can train them. That's absolutely true. But you have to keep in mind the company doing 1 mil a month can also do that. And they also want closers. So he's probably going to go there. And it's not impossible. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you have to keep that in mind. It's all about leverage. You can fill out these applications, and there's like hundreds of these closing communities. And when you fill out the application, you're going to have to input your business revenue, what the offer is, all that. And they look at that stuff. And it's just like a company doing, 20K a month does not look as good as a company doing 1 mil a month, like by a long shot. Because it's just unstable, right? And everybody knows it. So yes, you can train them. You could start looking for them, but you wanna approach it from a mindset of, this is gonna become a routine thing I do, interviewing the salespeople. And I'm not necessarily looking to hire someone. I'm just looking if I can get that one special person. If that happens, then we can hire him. And I would just take it slow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
What steps did like Patrick take specifically? So when did he get set up? When did he get his closer? What steps did he take?
Yeah, he got him pretty quick. To be fair, in my opinion, it was kind of luck. We placed that closer and we didn't even know it was that good. Like, I'm gonna be honest, we didn't even know I was that good.
How was the closer? And you mentioned that there was a specific person that.
Yeah, it was a closer, yeah. Yeah.
The killer with the closer.
Full stack salesperson, setter, and closer.
Oh, okay. It was set and closer. Wow.
Yeah.
What stage was Patrick at when you, like, how much did you make it per month when you implemented that? Obviously, I know.
10, 15.
Wow.
I got a closer at 10, 15K a month.
Yeah. But like I say, we got lucky. We tried it, it doesn't work. We got lucky. You have to trust me on this.
Where did you find this closer?
This is a very, very long story. I don't want to give all the details because there's going to be people who can find them, but
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. I can't give too many details, yeah. But yeah, anybody else got questions? Cool.